What is up, guys? It's Dust Minister back with another patch review. This patch is 2.10, so this is the third patch, and I am going to break it down instantly, see what relic is cooking. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be said. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be looked into. Lately, I am not feeling the game the same way as I have done before. The game is, in my opinion, objectively better pretty much across the board. There's a couple of question marks. There's a couple of things that absolutely needs to be checked out. But yeah, let's get into it. I want to make sure that this patch review is shorter because I have had a tendency to just make the longest videos ever. So I'm just going to get into it. So I'm going to switch this camera a little bit. Good. All right, let's get into it. I want to talk about how I feel exactly now. And I just want to make sure that we got a row below. This is going to be D. This is going to be E. All right, let's check it out. So for me, there is pretty much no actual E tier. There's pretty much no like straight up bad race. And we're pretty close to also not having a truly S tier race. However, there are still favorites. There's a lot here where I actually feel uncomfortable now with the meta. Because there's a lot of question marks that I've been into. And seeing what's going to happen here is going to be interesting. Alright, let's go. Let's start with Chaos. Chaos, in my opinion, I remember putting them as the worst race. I'm gonna take that back. That is absolutely dog shit. And you can see like how predictions sometimes with these patches are absolutely horrific. I'm gonna put Chaos in high B tier, low A tier. I actually think they are very low A tier. I might switch these things around. But I'm gonna just tell you right now that Chaos has really proven out to be a really good, strong race. Especially Raptors are really starting to show how strong they actually are. There's some compound changes that happened from 2.8 into 2.9, and now we'll see what they're going to do for 2.10, because I have a feeling that Raptors are starting to get a little bit out of hand. They're really, really strong. You can mass them very, very early, and you can get, you can actually get a lot of them since they only cost 2 squad cap, which is actually crazy because there are many instances where Chaos will literally go for like have 2 cultists and then 4 Raptors. And you can say whatever you want about it being all in and stuff, but the opponent usually doesn't have, good eco anyway, because Chaos usually harasses really aggressively really early. So usually in comes some cultist, in comes a Raptor squad. They're attacking from 2 different angles, and if you're like Space Marines, IG, if you did not win Seraphims as sisters, you have problems. Even Tau will get in there. Even Eldar will actually struggle. And yeah, if the map is good for Chaos, they're absolutely gonna obliterate. A proof that Chaos is very much a legit race. If this race was just dog shit, Dancist wouldn't win tournaments, but he did. Spoiler alert, because I'm not gonna cast that tournament. He absolutely dominated ELM Cup, and he won against pretty strong players like Ferempi. He won against All Sinai pretty convincingly, I would say. And yeah, Dancist was just an absolute monster, and he's also killing it in auto match. And it's not just him, like Scouty, I've seen him do a lot of stuff. I've even seen Nascent and Beholder do a lot of stuff. Tornado is struggling in this matchup. I saw Scouty just smack Tornado 4-0 on various maps. Another problem is that Chaos also has Generator Cult Mass opening, which is good on Shrine of Excellion and Blood River. So even on flat maps where Raptors is questionable, you can do a lot of stuff anyway. I think Chaos is really, really strong, and I am taking back whatever I said. We'll get into it later on. Dark Eldar, I think they're B tier. I think the nerfs to infantry low was a little bit too much. I actually think it was very overboard. Dark Foundry opening is very questionable now, which isn't too bad. It's just, yeah, it's just too much for Dark Eldar because it means that certain matchups is actually kind of broken. Space Marines can actually legitimately compete against Dark Eldar now, but you just have to be hella good. You can all in with turrets, which is unreliable. You can assault marine mass. You can go scout mass with just one gen, and all of it works in the right setting on the right map. There's no such thing as a completely unplayable map for Space Marines. Dark Eldar is starting to not have a good time against Orks the same way as they used to do. I think IG is definitely favored against them. You know, Eldar is struggling a bit in this patch as well. Even Tau is now getting kind of a problem for Dark Eldar, and like Necrons is actually pretty strong in this patch and have always been good against Dark Eldar. So Dark Eldar is kind of struggling. The reason why they're not like C or D tier or something is because they still overall deal really good damage to a lot of races. Hollow Blood opening is still really good. So yeah, Dark Eldar is kind of in an iffy spot. We'll see what's going to happen with them. Eldar, you might get shocked by this. They are low B tier, but I'll actually go even further. I think they're high C tier. Eldar still has good matchups. Like Space Marines, for example, they deal relatively well with Necrons still. IG doesn't have the best time ever, and stuff like that. They still have good scenarios, and if the map is good for Eldar, they can definitely compete. The problem with Eldar is just they struggle in a lot of cases. Orks is pretty good against them. Ever since the nerfs to Eldar with Dark Reaper optics being lowered, Rangers being a little bit delayed. You know, I could just keep on going about like some of the nerfs that Eldar has received. The global changes was also kind of questionable. Not questionable, they were really good, but it actually hurts Eldar a lot in tier 2.5. A lot. And the Falcon change was absolutely goated, absolutely needed, but it's just like when you have all those changes, it gets really rough. Space Marines can actually sort of compete with them now. And so, like, you get a lot of issues with Eldar. You have to be so good. And also, another thing that kind of shows me that Eldar is struggling is because if you look at the best of the best Eldar players, they're never getting above 1800 MMR. Never. You have Seer Council, who just goes in, like, really, really much. He's a legendary player. He struggles even getting 1700. So all the legendary players like Deco, Neki, I can just keep on going, are not playing Eldar right now because they feel really, really much problems for Eldar. I am willing to put them in low B tier, but I'm putting him here in C tier. Okay, you might get shocked by this, but I don't give a fuck what people say. IG is actually low-key imba. The plasma gun increase was absolutely insane. And the Psyker spam is something that IG is realizing right now is pretty strong. Even the commander change with the upgrade, the Valor or something, got really, really good for them as well. IG is really strong. And I'm not, like, certain tournaments, I'm not going to say too much because I might cast one of them. But IG players are going crazy in tournaments. And there are finals where IG is showing up. And there are finals where IG could actually win tournaments. It's not always, but, like, it tells you that IG is really a real race. The only reason why I'm not, like, thinking that they're S tier is because Tau is really still a problem. Sisters, I think, is slightly favored towards SOB. Space Marines can now finally compete against IG. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, IG still has some issues here and there, but they're really strong. Basilisk increase as well, or the revert of the nerf was absolutely ginormous for them. It made it so now they're actually pretty good against Necrons. However, we'll get to Necrons. You guys might say that I'm tripping, but I've just noticed at this point, it's just IG fans who's like trying to just act like IG is a garbage race. You guys don't watch tournaments. You guys just don't look into like stats and stuff. IG is really good. And like they are above, we're checking. So we're going to see here stats, matchups. Well, we're going to go with all. So IG, where are IG? They're above 50%. Now, you might say, like, that's not crazy. Yes, it's crazy because this is the most played race, except for Space Marines. We'll get to Space Marines, obviously. The fact that, like, we're talking beginner players, okay? The two races, and it has always been like this, that gets played the most is Space Marines and IG. And now there's other races that might get closer to them, but IG's and SM is still by far the most played races. And like very new beginners, they'll either go for those two, and IG is above 50%. That is fucking crazy. That is crazy. And as I said, they're also competing really well in tournaments. So you guys are tripping and acting like IG is just Gucci at this point. Plasma gun spam is actually very real because 15% was given back to them. And plasma gun was always bonkers. It was just the grenade launchers that was really oppressive. So IG is absolutely goated of a race currently, and there are other guys that actually agrees with me. I don't think there's any pro players that thinks IG is just okay right now. They absolutely need nerfs. Necrons is probably the highest to actually judge, or hardest. The problem with Necrons is that they are actually able to do some funky stuff that's a little bit worrisome. The eco changes that they got was very real. It actually makes it so even meeting on mines is like low-key okay-ish. It's still bad, but like Thermo, fast Thermo, there are certain builds you can do, which is 5 gens, summoning core, instant tier 2, and getting a global. If you actually look at the stats as well, it's not bad for Necrons. Let's see here. They're closing in on 50% win rate. Oh, and by the way, Necrons is also one of those that actually has a lot of newer players playing them. They are the third, they're above Sisters, right? Significantly. So Necrons is actually the third one. And these mother effers got huge nerfs in tier 2.5. And I'm shocked. I am shocked that Necrons is actually pretty legit. Bloody Monster is back as well. He's actually showing that this race is actually pretty good. And also, I'm going to just tell you right now, there's a lot of good Necron players out here. They are absolutely stomping Tau, by the way. Tau versus Necrons is borderline unplayable for Tau, except for someone like El Bandito, who's just an outlier. So yeah, Necrons is pretty Gucci. But yeah, as I said, 5 gens, summoning core, instant tier 2, global. That's a build. That's actually a build you can do. And then you get your 6th and 7th generator relatively fast because it's not late game. You can get thermal plasma generator if you want it. And also, just remember, Necron warriors are 0 powers. You can actually kind of low-key rush this if the matchup actually gives you the chance. Also, I don't know what it is with certain Necron players just being like, oh, Necrons, they shouldn't they shouldn't be lowered in building damage. If Necrons could actually base race, I'm going to tell you right now, this race would be the most insane race because it would mean that they can destroy buildings and teleport back. I think the Milish thinks that this should not be nerfed. thank God they nerfed it. I feel like the opposite. No way you can base race and defend at the same time. Ain't no way. Because the other guy is actually committing. You can decide what to do if your building damage is actually high. So, ain't no way. Orks, B tier as well. If you remember last time, I was actually putting them relatively low, but I think it was the second lowest, except for Chaos. But Master Yoba is actually cooking with Orks, and so is Neki. Both of these guys are showing that Orks is still pretty good. I know the Star is also cooking some stuff. You don't have to go the armor upgrade instantly. You can actually go more Daka and Blastier relatively fast. So if you're going Ork shooter mass, you can actually do a lot. Tier 2 rush is still very real, by the way. So there's a lot of stuff that Orks can do. Orks is actually low-key winning here and there and starting to actually show some power. I worry if Relic is actually buffing them, because then they're starting to get back to their power levels. I don't think they're there because their nerfs are still very real. But yeah, I just want to put it out there. Also, a lot of their matchups got kind of nerfed. So yeah, Orks is in a good spot. Sisters is also kind of B tier. I think I'll put them above, or these three right here, even 4 actually, is kind of worrisome for me. And they are almost interchangeable. But I'm not sure. Like, Sisters is also a pretty strong race, because even though the pacing got very much slowed down, it doesn't change the fact that their power levels is really good. Also, I don't know if Relic forgot, but Seraphims are still very real. The Angelic Visage or whatever, that ability of Seraphims is real good. Crack Grenades are still bussing. Celestians are still pretty good. So, it's just the late game that's problematic for Sisters, but their early game is still bussing. Their tier 2 is still very real. So, yeah, Sisters of Battle, absolutely crazy race. Their tier 1.5 is still very real. Just keep that in mind. Space Marines, they're above Eldar. I'm not even joking. I actually think Space Marines kinda is struggling, but it's not by too much. If I have to say something here, I would actually put them here, because I don't think they're quite C tier. I actually think Eldar is the worst race, just straight up. I'm gonna just tell you right now. I think Eldar is struggling a tad bit too much. There's too many matchups that's kind of problematic for them. Some got better, like Dark Eldar and stuff, but yeah. SM. The problem with SM is that Orks is starting to realize that you should go Warbanner from time to time. Orks is starting to realize that they have certain build orders that they can do to actually compete with SM. SM can't just, like, mass Space Marines and just, like, go, where's the Warbanners anymore. Orks are actually realizing what to do. They're using Gretchens with infiltration. All of these things was always possible for Orks, but Orks kind of got psychologically hit, which is kind of problematic. And Eldar might actually be in the same place right now, because they also received pretty hefty nerfs. So yeah, there's a lot of question marks on SM matchups. Necrons is still a good matchup for SM, but people act like this matchup is unplayable for Necrons. You guys are smoking. The Chaplain nerf buffed Necrons way more than any other race, because the fights against Necrons is actually very long, extended. And also, it depends on the map. The only maps that's actually unplayable for Necrons, and even those, like, Necrons can do something, but I would still say it's kind of unplayable, is Quest Triumph, Meeting of Minds, and what's that one? Shrine of Excellion, especially Shrine. So, yeah. Sisters is slightly favored to SM, but it's only ever so slightly, still a 50-50 in my opinion. And Dark Eldar is still favored to Dark Eldar, but it's closer now. And Chaos is actually favored as well against SM. IG is favored against SM. So just across the board, SM is actually kind of struggling, except for against Necrons. And also, Eldar's favored against SM. So it's not like SM doesn't have a chance anymore. It's not like they are down in E tier or D tier or whatever. Not anymore. In fact, I can also switch it around. SM can actually compete against pretty much all races. It's just they have to work harder for it. Tau, I'm gonna keep it a buck. They're up here. So if it wasn't because of Necrons, Tau would actually be above IG and Chaos. And yes, IG is my strongest race. I've seen too many times this race absolutely go crazy. But if it wasn't because of the Tau matchup and Chaos actually being able to compete with them, matter of fact, I'm gonna switch it around. The Dark Eldar matchup got radically better for Tau. Sisters of Battle is pretty 50-50, I would say. Tau is really, really strong in my opinion. Kroots and Vespids are still not nerfed. The Advanced Pulse Rifle is somehow not nerfed either, which is crazy. And this Imba race that I said, Tau is actually radically still favored against them, right? And Orks still doesn't really quite kill Tau, and especially Outer Reaches, Titan's Fall. There's a third one. If Emerald River was here, also that one. Yeah, those maps where Tau, maybe even Battle Marshes low-key, where Tau can just instantly harass Orks, and Orks cannot do anything about it. It's crazy. Yeah, so in my opinion, Tau is definitely up here. Okay, so getting a little bit of light. I cannot turn on my my lamp here because, yeah, whatever. We're not going to talk about that. Also, maybe I should add this. The reason why Eldar's down here and Tau is up here is because this matchup is unplayable. The Dark Reaper nerfs are so insanely bad for Eldar in this matchup that is crazy. Wraith Tomb also got nerfed. I think it's actually the worst matchup. Was Eldar? Yes. So this one is absolutely brutal. And we're talking pro players. I've not met a single pro player who's like, yeah, Eldar versus Tau is okay. Absolutely not. And by the way, when the sample size was a little bit lower, this mother effer was actually like 22% or some BS like that. This is absolutely, and even though like sample sizes in here, like this is really not good stats, but it's just like indications of something happening. The margin of error is absolutely insane, obviously. And as I said, Tau is pretty good against IG. If it wasn't because of the Necron matchup, they would be number one. But yeah, let's get into it. These 5 races here is kinda interchangeable. But I feel like this correct spectrum. So let's get into it. All right, so patch 2.10, I am super excited. I am really excited. Still, thank you, Relic, for actually doing these things. It's absolutely amazing, so let's get into it. Today's update marks a full year of support for Warhammer 40k, Dawn of War Definitive Edition. Thank you to all the fans, modders, tournament organizers, and balance testers who have kept the community active and engaged. You have given us an opportunity to keep supporting a game that means so much to all of us here at Relic. Going forward, after any required hotfixes and balance adjustment, the cadence of updates is likely going to slow and scale down as we allow the multiplayer meta to settle and generate more definitive data. That's really, really good. Additionally, this will allow our team to spend time on some larger initiatives. The team will still be here watching for ways to support the community. Amazing. Amazing. As always, please continue to report any issues. Helprelic.com to help us prioritize any new existing issues. Okay, great. Let's get into it. So, multiplayer balance. General, this update looks to improve underused units, heavy weapons, and research, while also fixing some units' inconsistencies and improving some of the worst multiplayer matchups. Okay. Chaos are getting a cost increase on Khorne Berserkers. Okay, really good. I didn't even talk about Khorne Berserkers, by the way, but Corn Berserkers are actually legit. Like, if you need them, you can do some crazy stuff with them. Even tier 2 rush with Corn Berserkers is actually legit. Corn Berserkers are not a consistent unit, but them just being strong is actually kind of OP. So yeah, Corn Berserkers to reduce the effectiveness of some strategies. They were rushed together with the Chaos Sorcerer, absolutely, and could perform well even at severe economic disadvantage. This is actually true. Like, I've seen like Chaos players play with 48 and 20 power, maybe even 10 power, and they actually are still relevant. That's crazy. So yeah. Cultists are seeing a buff to their plasma guns and a minor buff to grenade launchers as well. Defiler are getting back some of their damage against air units, and the Chaos Lord is getting a targeted buff against some factions. Cultist Squad. Plasma gun accuracy increased from 40% to 50% accuracy when moving, remain at 30. Okay, this is a decent buff. By the way, 50%, that's like I don't know, that's a huge increase in damage, actually. Accuracy is actually kind of dangerous to increase. I'm not going to go into it, but this might be like, I don't know, like a 25. I might be missing some of the calculations here, but that's actually probably a 50 or 25% DPS increase. That's a lot, actually. Plasma gun might actually be viable off of this. This might not look crazy, but plasma gun actually deals a lot of damage if it hits. Interesting. I'm looking forward to see if the plasma gun is actually real. Grenade launcher damage increased by 5%. Why the fuck did Relic do this? Like, why? First of all, okay, let me just talk to you for a second here. Grenade launcher is not bad. In fact, grenade launcher is actually pretty decent. Because grenade launchers is just this niche thing. Like, you can do it as an opening on certain maps, in certain matchups, and you can use it in tier 1.5, even though it's a little bit underwhelming-ish. Grenade launcher damage increased makes zero sense. There is the opening I just alluded to earlier in this video, where I said that you can do cultist smash with just plasma generator, and if you need, you can transition into grenade launchers. So grenade launchers are not bad at all. They were just heavily nerfed because Necrons was an absolute BS. I don't get why Relic is increasing this. This is absolutely BS in my opinion. It's not going to be huge, but the reason why I feel like this is BS is like 5%. Why was this the breaking point? Like, if you think grenade launchers are weak, at least go with 10 or 15% or some BS. But obviously, I'm completely opposite. You should never buff this shit. Just the idea of grenade launchers getting close or just kind of viable as an opening against certain races, absolutely BS. Don't do it. It's a niche opening that works sometimes. And if you know what you're doing, you can still make it work. And as I said, it's a tier 1.5 availability as well. So I don't get it. Corn Berserkers. I don't want to be disrespectful to Relic, but yeah. I'm not a fan of this. I'm gonna just keep it real. Corn Berserkers squad cost increased from 220 to 222.20. Okay. And reinforced cost increased by 5 requisition. Another thing about Corn Berserkers is these motherfuckers are insanely fast. 24 movement speed is crazy. And there are vehicles that doesn't even have this movement speed. This isn't bad. Like, don't get me wrong, this change isn't bad. I just don't really get why the economic change was the way to go. But, well, I get it, but I feel like there's other stuff you could have done. Also, these mod efforts are unkillable in certain cases. So, I feel like the stats was actually something to go for. But then again, like, I respect this the changes they did to Corn Berserkers. But yeah, they're very overtuned in certain cases. I'm happy that these guys got nerfed. Okay, battle cannon damage against air units increased by 20%. Okay, so let's take a look, because it got lowered by 25%, the overall damage of Defiler, which meant that they actually dealt radically less damage to air. Not the Flamer. Yeah, so it did 18 damage to vehicle air, which is way too low. This shouldn't be good against air units, but I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, this is not good. This would be an increase of what? It was 20%, right? Obviously, I can't, because there's some piercing value and stuff that might get in. No, it actually was, yeah, okay. This is not a huge increase, in fact, so I respect that. 20% is completely fine, in my opinion. It's still kind of low, so I'm Gucci with this. Chaos Lord, bolt pistol damage against infantry high increased by 20%. Okay, Relic is cooking with this one. Chaos still has some problems against Orks. They still need a tad bit help against Eldar and stuff. So I'm messing with this. Obviously, I would have loved them to go with the Chaos Marines instead, but Chaos Marines aren't bad, and as I said, Chaos is actually pretty strong. I'm not a fan of this Nickel stuff, but other than that, I'm a fan of all this. This is pretty good. Chaos Lord getting this increase, kudos. I think this is respectable. We've already seen what the infantry high increases was doing for SM. It was absolutely amazing, and this is also going to be really good for Chaos Lord. So respect Relic. This is pretty good. I'm a little worried that Cultist is not getting actual nerfs, and we're talking the Cultist in of itself. I would have loved a, I don't know, like a tax of 5 requisition, not in reinforced cost, but just when you buy them, because Cultist spam is just absolutely absurd. And I feel like they're early harassed. Like, maybe the Raptors could get a little bit lowered in some stat. 20 HP increase was very real. But at least if you're not going that direction, maybe lower some of the stat increases you gave to the upgrade of the boost, the speed booster upgrade. I think it was a little overtuned. So that's some of the changes I would give to Chaos. But other than that, I'm pretty good with this. Okay, Dark Eldar. Dark Eldar is getting an increase in range damage reduction of the energy field for Days of Destruction. Okay. To help them perform better in late game scenarios. At the same time, we are removing Building High from being effective by corrosion to prevent the headquarters from being destroyed too easily by Dark Eldar in the later stages of the match. Yes! This is an amazing change! I cannot believe that it stayed in the game for such a long time. It was absolutely BS. Like, sometimes you didn't even need the War Beast. Like, even though they got nerfed the witches in melee damage for sure, War Beast with witches and the blood drunk buff or whatever it's called, absolutely BS. So, and with corrosion on top of it, you would get HQ that would just be one shot. Yeah, so BS. I'm very, very happy about that. I can already see some Reaver jet bike stuff here, so let's see. Witches are a bit too costly for what they can do after their previous nerfs, and are getting a reduction in their reinforced cost. Okay. Raiders are overperforming in the early stages of tier 2. I agree with this. And are getting a reduction in their health. Oh my god. Thank god. Finally, Reaver jet bikes are getting some of its damage against builders back, since it would reduce too much in previous patches. Okay, all of this sounds amazing. So, Reaver jet bikes should be harassing. Reaver jet bikes should deal a lot of damage to in the early game. It's just too much for builders. So I'm really happy that they're doing this. However, they're not doing with the Hellions, which okay. Raiders, only 100 HP, which is fair. Raiders should be good. But yeah, I don't mess with Raiders. They're way too good. So yeah, this is important. I love this. Which is reinforced cost is lowered by 5. I feel like this is fair. They got lowered in damage both in melee and range by 20%. So I mean, this is okay. This is absolutely okay. I think this is fair. Days of Destruction, energy field, range damage reduction improved from 70% damage taken to 60%. Oh, damage taken. So this means now the damage reduction is 40% rather than 30%. Okay, that's a relatively good buff. Dark Eldar is still a little questionable in tier 4, so I am completely fine with this change. And the corrosion armor reduction effect can no longer affect building high, mostly HQ buildings. Okay, they cooked with Dark Eldar. They absolutely cooked with Dark Eldar. I think some of these changes, nerfs and balance, like buffs and nerfs, amazing. I think this is really, really good. It obviously depends on what they do with the other races, but this is really good. Chaos, I have some question marks. Dark Eldar, perfect. Okay, Eldar. The Eldar are getting a targeted buff to Warlock to help it survive a bit better. Okay. With the goal of improving the Eldar. See, guys? See. Relic knows what's up. Improving the Eldar versus Tau matchup, where they are needed to detect and kill stealth suits in the early game. Mysticism are getting a slight cost decrease to make it more affordable and further improve Guardians early on. The Eldar health research are getting a reduction in time cost, which will help them come online earlier, considering long research time for all upgrades in Soul Shrine. Okay. We're also fixing the second health upgrade so that it probably changes the armor type for Banshee Ixarak, so it matches an armor type change for the rest of the squad. Okay, interesting. This sounds really good, by the way. Guardians Warlock health increase from 250 to 300. Yeah, this is really, really good. I think this opening that they're probably buffing right now is absolutely amazing against Tau, so we're gonna get into it. Webway Assembly, Mysticism cost decrease by... I think they could have gone harder with this. Like, I think they could have decreased the build time. I think they could have decreased the requisition a tiny bit as well. Maybe actually go down to 100, actually. That's not a tiny bit. Maybe a little bit more power. Like, I think Mysticism is a little bit too weak in terms of the accessibility of it. I'm going to explain why these buffs are absolutely amazing for Eldar and very much needed. Soul Shrine, reinforced armor research time decreased by 15 seconds, and same with enhanced armor research time. Okay, new Banshee Ixarak now changes armor type from infantry high to infantry heavy medium. Okay, that's real good. Match to yeah, whatever. This doesn't matter. Like, Relic has been pushing for Banshees to actually be good, and they still suck. It's a niche unit though, so it should be still pretty good as a unit. They got some pretty hefty buffs, but they still, as an opening, just suck. These two changes, there is a build against Tau that doesn't get played a lot, and there's actually two ways of it. There is 3 Guardians with Plasma Grenades and Mysticism and Warlocks and Farseer. That opening is really good against Tau. You can do a lot of early pushes. There is also double generator, only double generator, and 5 Guardians. This is also a very good build against Tau. Tau will struggle a lot in the early game against this. It's very oppressive openings. Warlock changes will mostly only help in the Tau matchup because You don't go Warlocks in pretty much any other matchup. At least not consistently. So this is absolutely amazing. I think they should have gone harder though, but the idea of this is really, really good. The mysticism and Warlocks are 100% the most used against Tau, and Tau, they need help in the Tau matchup. Also, reinforced armor being a little bit lower in build time by 15 seconds might actually help as well, because Dark Reapers just die way too much. If they're ahead in tech somehow, which they can be actually, Dark Eldar can get faster going against Tau. So yeah, I think all of these are not enough, but the idea is pretty good. Yeah. Let's look at it. The Imperial Guards have been overperforming and are getting several small adjustments to their strength. Guys, when are you gonna leave this idea that IG is weak? When are you gonna leave this idea that IG is somehow, like, Relic knows this, Pro Player knows this, look at tournaments results. I'm gonna tell you right now, IG is Gucci. In fact, I think they're overpowered. Curse of the Machine Spirit, oh, I didn't talk about this. Curse of the Machine Spirit is absolutely BS. I've seen double psychers on very early of Command Squad. I've seen like psychers just being produced very early as well. It's absolutely BS because it literally cock blocks so many races early game tier 2 spike because their vehicles, as they get out, just gets instantly stunned. So yeah, I F with this. So Curse of the Machine Spirit is getting a reduction in duration and increase in cooldown to make it harder to continually stun vehicles in the early stages of tier 2. And Dauntless Valor is now moved to tier 3. What? To reduce the amount of psychers that can be put on a command squad early on. That sounds like a crazy change. Why? I need to check. So, where's IG? I think we should look at tactical control. Oh, I'm tripping. Okay, Dauntless Valor is actually tier 2. Okay, I like this because I've seen command squads just doing crazy shit very early on in tier 2 with this. It's absolutely BS. So it's very niche though, but I like that they changed it because Jesus Christ. So it wasn't the early one. It wasn't the Uncommon Valor. That's the one. It wasn't that one, which is really good. Yeah. The Guardsman Plasma Guard. Oh my god. Chimera and some of the Baneblade weapons are getting small damage reduction to reduce Imperial Guard strength in different stages of the game. Okay. And finally, the Marauder is seeing some improvements in its heavy bolters to make them fire more frequently and deal more damage. Maybe I haven't said this, but Marauder might actually be really OP if this one gets through. But some of the changes that has so far gotten to them are pretty good. And speaking of the Marauder, we're already going for it. So heavy bolters fire on the move accuracy increased by 5% to 15%. Okay. Heavy bolters horizontal, vertical, transverse speed. Traverse speed increased from, okay, so doubled. What is whatever. I guess it has something to do with its movement speed because it's super awkward the way it moves and stuff, so I hope that. Heavy bolter damage is increased by 20. Holy S. That's a lot, actually. Wait, hold on. Is it really that bad, the Marauder? By the way, I don't mind it. It's just kind of like, what? Heavy bolter? Okay, it's kind of underwhelming, but 20% is real. Fire on the move is still 15%, so it's kind of garbito. So, yeah, I still think Murata is gonna be fair. I like that they're going for the Murata though. But if this unit ever gets like consistently meta, we might see some problems. But Murata is not gonna be OP anytime soon, so this is pretty good. I respect these changes. Also, is Murata like this is how you know that this is how you know that Murata is really a niche unit. I guess it's tier 3, right? Required. Ain't no way that it's not requiring anything other than... Nah, this can't be right. I'm gonna tell you right now, this can't be right. Okay, let me check. It should require something more than just... requires mechanized depot. Okay. I was tripping because it's the depot that requires regimental whatever. Okay. So yes, they are tier 3 unit. Okay, then I'm not worried at all. Not at all actually. So this one deserves more buffs actually. So whatever. Curse of the Machine Spirit. Holy, this is some real nerfs actually. So Curse of the Machine Spirit, cooldown increased from 55 to 70. That's an increase of 25. Wait, hold on. No, it's 15. Okay. 15 seconds. And the duration is decreased by 2. Yeah, I F with this. This is really good. It's very real nerfs, so I would not go further with this. I think this is where Machine Spirit should be. I can't believe this mod effort was 15 seconds. Imagine that. So yeah, and this is still gonna work on Baneblade, Days of Destruction, you know, all super late game relic vehicles. So yeah, this is extremely important that they got this nerf. Okay, Guardsman, plasma gun damage reduced by 10%. This includes the minimum damage value. Relic said that plasma guns are getting small damage reductions. 10% is a little bit, but then again, like, plasma guns have really real, so I F with this. I think we'll see how it's gonna work out. I think this is really a good sweet spot. I hope Relic has tested this, but this seems pretty good. But then again, I'm not. I have a feeling the sweet spot actually lies with 7.5 or something. But I guess Relic, like, looking into their changes, they don't like these odd numbers, so yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm glad they didn't just completely revert it. Also, I think it's 10% of the 15% increase. So this is actually like a less nerf than I'm thinking, but yeah, whatever. Good change, at least the direction. Tactical Dauntless Valor now requires Regiment. Yeah, perfect. Chimera damage reduction by 10% on all weapons. This includes the minimum damage value. Really? I'm gonna tell you right now, I have no idea why they changed this. Like, Chimera is not OP at all. The only moment where Chimera is kind of like bonkers is the first Chimera where you get 2 guardsmen in it, and it deals a lot of damage. In fact, it deals extreme amount of damage. So if they wanted to nerf that weapon, then I can see it by 10%. But overall, I don't get it. Also, Chimera is absolutely crucial in certain matchups. Tau matchup is probably the first that gets to mind. So I am not happy about this change. I think this is too much of a nerf. I'm really not a fan of this. This is the first one where I'm like, nah, I think Relic is tripping on this one. 10% seems like a huge nerf, but I don't know. Maybe it's not too bad. I just worry Chimera is the most like bread and butter kind of vehicle, or a unit if you don't want to go for plasma guns. And IG has their grenade launchers and plasma guns nerfed. There's certain matchups where you don't want to go for the tactical control. So yeah, I don't know if I'm a fan of this. Baneblade, Battle Cannon, and Demolish Cannon damage reduced by 10%. You know what? F it. I think this is fair. Baneblade is actually low-key insane. However, I think this will actually make it so now the Land Raider can actually win against the Baneblade one-on-one. I'm not sure about this, but Land Raider is probably going to be a very, very strong unit. We'll see if they nerf it for SM. But we'll see, because so far they're going for some tier 4 units, both for Dark Eldar and for Imperial Guard, so interesting. Let's get into Necrons. So Necrons is probably the one that I'm a little bit most iffy about, but we'll see. Necrons are receiving some small reduction to range damage for Wraith and Necron Lord after researching Wraith Flight and Phylactery. Fire! Absolutely fire. This aims to improve some matchups where Wraiths are spammed together with strong Necron Lord and were almost unkillable. The only matchup where I'm like, this is really bad is in Tau matchup, but honestly, like, if you think about it, pretty much all matchups where there's 3 matchups where Wraiths are used. Or a lot used. It's the Eldar matchup, it's the Tau matchup, and it's the Eldar matchup. Oh, sorry, Orc matchup, there you go. Tau absolutely needs this buff because they are suffering in this matchup. Meanwhile, Orks and Eldar are still kind of Gucci against Wraiths, but they got nerfed in their damage. So it's actually kind of a compensation for this. This is a really good move by Relic, I think. Chronometron is getting its cost reduced to make it more affordable in some matchups where Necrons struggle. I like this a lot. Veil of Darkness is also getting its cost reduced. Yeah, Veil of Darkness is absolutely useless. Its cost reduced since it's the least used out of all Necron Lord's artifacts. And if it's the least used, you know that this motherfucker is bad, because there is a lot of unusable artifacts. Not unusable, but kind of questionable artifacts for Necron Lord, so yeah. Solar Pulse has gotten a further increase in its cooldown because of how well it can shut down ranged armies. Yes! Oh my god, these mod efforts are absolutely cooking. I love it. The Nightbringer is getting some speed increase to help it better engage and deal damage before it reverts into the Necron Lord again. Nice. Nightbringer is questionable, so I like it. Both the Necron Lord and the Lord Destroyer are getting increased damage to late game relic units. Okay. The Necron Lord as well. Okay. And Krutox, which Necrons struggle to counter. Krutox, is that... Is it really problem? Well, whatever. I think Krutox is actually... Shout out to the guy who put that in a comment section. I think Krutox is literally the only unit that has Demon Medium, so we're gonna look into it. Okay, this sounds really, really good. Let's get into it. Wraith range damage reduction after Wraith Flight is research reduced from 80% to 76%. What the fuck is this, dude? But that's such a low change. I think they should go down lower. However, if I'm to be fair to Relic, I think the reason why they're lowering it very little is because 4% is actually like bigger than you think, because it's like the damage reduction, how it's calculated, is kind of hard for me to explain in any way, shape, or form. Also, I don't fully understand it to the same degree. This being lowered by this, remember, Wraith is actually really, really 500 HP or something. So it receiving this kind of nerf is bigger than you think. However, I don't give a fuck. It should have been lower. However, I think Relic is a little bit afraid of nerfing this too much. Also, I would have liked them to lower the chance of it to revive, because that is absolutely BS. It also has a phase shift of its own. So yeah, I think Wraith could have gotten more nerf than this, but I mean, at least the idea is good. But yeah, this is not enough. At least go down to like 70%. Or maybe like go to 72% or whatever, because this is like really low. However, this is way higher than you think. So Nightbringer max speed increased from 20 to 24. Okay. This sounds a little bit scary. However, Nightbringer is absolutely garbage. So, but movement speed, we've seen, especially with the Khorne Berserkers, what it can do to a unit. So, we'll see. 24 is no joke. But I F with it anyway. Necron Lord and Lord Destroyer. Melee damage against Demon High and Vehicle High increased by 50. Melee damage against Demon Medium is increased by 400. Okay, last time these numbers was in here, it was because it was absolutely garpito numbers. I'm not gonna get into it. I trust Relic that this is decent numbers. Necrolord being good against Relic units, I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Because Necrolord, even though he's really strong in the later stages of the game, he's not completely unbearable, so I'm okay with this. Necrolord, phylactery range damage reduction lower from 60 to 50. Relic, are you serious? Okay, I have not mentioned phylactery a lot, but this shield that Necrolord is getting is absolutely insane. Necron Lord, because there's other factors to phylactery. It increases his health region by like, it multiplies it by 3, and it gets absolutely insane when you got phase shift. So Necron Lord can actually get way too much healing, in my opinion. The damage reduction, range damage reduction, is just a secondary thing. This should absolutely be lowered. I think it should go down to 50. You might say, oh, like, is it really that bad? Yes, it's absolutely, like, 5% is barely a real nerf. Tau versus Necrons, the problem for Tau is that they received, can I actually see the, yeah, I can. So Tau received some very hidden nerfs against Necrons that is actually really insane. It helped IG a lot, even though the matchup is still kind of bonkers. Where is it? So the eco changes, pretty bad for Tau in this matchup, because the eco changes for Necrons got really good, and not being able to get full-scale war, the blue global, and the power storage, battery storage research, the green global, before tier 3 is actually pretty impactful, especially in that one. Where is it? Oh, this one is huge. So Stealth Team Fusion Blasters and Shadow Fusion Blaster damage against commanders got decreased by 25. And, I mean, yeah, Barracudas as well. 50%, that's insane, actually. Barracudas are actually low-key good against Necrons, because it disrupts Wraiths and stuff. El Bandito uses it a lot against Necrons. So this 50% is actually very real as well. Devilfish got lowered in damage as well. So I can kind of just keep on going. But especially this one, this just means, together with the Barracuda, that Tau kind of struggles with commander damage now. And Necrolord is literally unplayable. Or unkillable against Tau. It's actually insane. He's MVP every single time in the Tau versus Necron matchup. So this is not enough. I'm actually kind of annoyed that Relic didn't go further, but hey, it is what it is. I just love the direction, but again, they should have gone further. I understand there's certain matchups where it's like where you don't want this nerf, but I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Like, you don't want to go Wraiths in every single matchup anyway, and Phylactery is just way too bonkers in too many situations. Also, the real OP shit about Phylactery is really the health region, and as long as the Phylactery is still like 50%, Phylactery is absolutely bonkers. Should have been nerfed harder. Soul Pulse cooldown increase another 10 seconds. I think this is good because Solar Pulse, I think this mother effer lasts like 20 seconds. So this getting increased is pretty good. So there's some good buffs to Tau. I'm gonna just be real, it's just not enough. Forbidden Archive, Veil of Darkness, and Chromatron gets low. So Veil of Darkness actually gets lower by 50 power. That's crazy. And then 25 power for Chromometron. I think all of this is fair. Chromometron is just way too weak, in my opinion, so I F with this. And Veil of Darkness is useless anyway, so... Or it's way too expensive for what it does. I am not entirely satisfied with Necrons, but I'm very satisfied with their analysis, so... I'm okay with all of these changes. I would have just liked them to go way harder on the flag. Well, I would have liked them to decrease this by further 5 percentage points. And I don't think they went hard enough on the Wraiths. They're still low-key unkillable against many races, especially Tau. And as I said, the other races got lowered in damage as well because of the Blastier nerf and the Optics nerf for Eldar. So yeah, this... I think they could have lowered it even more. Okay, Orks. Let's get into it. Orks are having a bit of a hard time in the current meta and are getting some minor buffs to help them out. Stormboys are getting back some of the health buff from Heavy Boy armor, and they lost in a previous patch. Oh my god, okay. The idea is good. A couple of Pilot Guns research are getting lower research time, and even more DACA will also increase the damage of Shooter Boys and Big Shooters. That's completely fine. Even more DACA is tier 3, so that's completely fine. Mega Armored Knobs are still underperforming and are receiving some additional buffs. Good. Their reinforced cost is being reduced. They start with a bit more morale. Oh, nice. And they build slightly faster. Slugger Boy Burners are too weak and are underused, so they're getting small damage increase in return for some lower damage against lightly armored buildings. Ooh, this is really interesting. Okay, Pilot Guns. As I said, Orks is actually in a decent spot. They just need some help. But not too much, so we'll see. More DACA research time is lower by 15 seconds. I think this is very much fair. Just keep in mind what I said earlier about range upgrades for Orks. They're actually pretty good now. Because you can just go for them very fast and skip the armor. It doesn't mean that it's a reliable strategy every single time, but Orks can actually like kind of adjust their build orders a little bit. So I think this is actually a bigger buff than you guys think. However, it's absolutely fair because 60 seconds is absolutely annoying. More DACA research time is also reduced by 15 seconds, and even more DACA now gives Shooter Boy Squad and Big Shooters 15% damage increase. This is good. This is very, very good. I respect all of this. But there's no Stormboys here or whatever. Okay, whatever. Slugger Squad Burner damage is increased by 10%. Burner armor piercing against building low increased by 30%. This is completely fine. I actually kind of F with this. Burner is not as bad as people think, but it's kind of questionable. Okay, it's very questionable. I'm gonna keep it a buck. But burner damage being increased by 10%, I F with this. I think this might be a better buff than people think. However, it's still gonna be kind of meh. So, also, in case you got absolutely bonkers, its burner armor piercing damage against building low is actually really high. So I love that they just in case burner actually gets low-key overpowered, let's just lower this BS here. Squiggoth fixed the 2 twin big shooters weapons, so they would no longer deal damage against certain armor types due to having 0 armor piercing. Armor piercing against infantry high, heavy, medium, and heavy, high, building low, building medium, and building high now set to 3. 21.6 damage per second instead of 3 per second. Okay, I think this is completely fine because there's no way there should be 3 per second with their last cannons. So I'm completely fine with this. Also, why the hell was it 0? I don't get it. Mega armor knobs, reinforced cost decreased from 100 to 60 to... Oh, the power cost is lowered by 15. I like that. I really like that, actually. Build time decreased from 20... Just 5 seconds. It's not going to do anything. Base morale increased from 400 to 500. So if Mega Armor Knobs actually gets, like, legitimately powerful... The real reason why Mega Armor Knobs is kind of questionable is because they are available at 65 and not 55 Orc Pop, which just means that they're kind of like late to the party. So them getting some buffs here, I'm completely fine with it. It's just like kind of a meh unit still. Morale is actually underrated of a buff because Mega Armor Knobs actually gets, funnily enough, morale dropped. Chaplain can one-shot their morale, base morale, still. So, yeah, Mega Armor Knobs getting these buffs, I'm completely fine with it. Should have probably gone a little bit harder, but just be careful in buffing this this unit too much. You could move it to 55 pop, but if you do that, they absolutely should get some adjustments, and I don't think it's a good idea. So, hey, it is what it is. Stormboy health increase from 20 to 27.5. Stormboys are getting some of health buff from Heavy Boy armor that they lost in previous. Getting some minor buffs. This is a massive buff. Let me just make it very clear. Stormboys are actually still legit. They're just not being abused in every single matchup. And now they can actually get back to it. I think this means that they lost 5.5 percentage points of HP upgrade or HP buff. I think this is too much. I think this is too much because it's still a very, very cheap unit. However, I completely understand because Stormboys are a tiny bit underwhelming, but they're still very much viable. So I don't know about this one. I'm a little bit skeptical, but then again, I think it's okay-ish. As I said, Orks is actually starting to perform very well on ladder, so I'm a little worried with this one. Wartrack, bomb chuck effect reduced from... Slow effect, okay. Reduced from 50 to 40. Bomb Chucker is still absolutely insane, but this is a very welcome nerf because Wartrack is absolutely insane. With the Bomb Chucker. Okay, overall, little worried. Only a little, though. I like the Stormboys getting this buff. I just don't know if it should be this much. But yeah, I like the changes to Orks. They should very much be a strong race still. Yeah, they'll rise up in because some of the very, very big Achilles heel focuses that were against Orks is now actually less absurd. So I I think this is completely fine, especially this change is a little bit worrisome. But yeah, thank God Orks actually got some rebuffs because they needed it. Sisters of Battle. Sisters of Battle are receiving some changes to fix several issues. The missionary is getting its morale armor standardized to avoid situations where squads would break too easily with missionary attached. Okay. Celestians and Seraphims now generate slightly less faith to reduce the abundance of faith in the mid-game. Yeah, true, actually. This is actually really good nerf, actually. But the late-game global faith increase from Heart of Worship is now cheaper and more accessible. Great. The rest of the changes are mostly minor adjustments to improve different matchups and some improvements to the Sisters of Battle late-game performance. Okay, morale armor increased 50% for missionary. I mean, I'm completely fine with this. There's no reason it should be this low. And missionary is kind of like a bad unit in the later stages of the game, so I'm kind of fine with this. He's literally just a healing bot, and he's kind of easy to kill, especially if you focus commander units. He can actually die very early, although I think the veteran superior would get focused first. So yeah, I think this is good. Battle Sister Phosphor Grenade armor piercing against infantry medium increased from 70 to 80% for both damage over time and grenade damage. This is against IG, right? I mean, I don't know about this one because I still think Battle Sisters is good against IG, but IG can now actually have a pretty good matchup against Battle Sisters opening. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this change, but I do get it because I have seen phosphor grenades hit guardsman squads, and I was like, this should deal more damage, right? But you can still stack phosphor grenades, and they're still really good. So this, I'm not sure about this one, but hey, I'm not against it per se either. Seraphim squad. Faith income from normal squad members reduced from 25 to 0.20. Okay. That's good. And then Angelic Visage bonus to max damage reduced from 25 to 20%. Only max damage though. I don't know, does Angelic Visage even buff the minimum damage? I don't think so. I'm gonna check actually. Seraphim squad. Angelic Visage. Morale rate. Okay, so it actually is only max damage. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. However, like, I don't know, dude. Like, this ability is actually low-key overpowered. But I guess lower than... It's just the fact that it only buffs max damage, which is kind of bad. I would have liked it to increase max damage by 15% and then the minimum damage by 10%, or maybe they should get closer to just be 12.5 or something, because it's too, like, you have 3 Seraphim squads, and by the way, I think this mod effort actually stack. I think this thing actually stacks. I'm sorry for checking all these things, but I just want to make sure that I get everything right. I'm pretty certain that this one actually stacks. So this Angelic Visage is still gonna be really, really strong. But yeah, at least IF with the direction. Celestian squad, faith income from normal squad members reduced. Again, lowered by 20%, just like the Seraphims. I think this is very fair. And then Sister Repentia squad. Righteous fever or fervor battle speed increase from 30 to 50. That's a massive buff. Holy, that's huge actually. I don't know if it's, I think it's justified though. Repentia is really questionable. Eviscerator armor piercing against vehicle high increased from 0 to 15%. This is absolutely justified. Yeah, Sisters Repentia is still gonna be kind of doodle. But yeah, I think these buffs are really, really justified. But then again, as I said, Repentia is kind of questionable, so obviously this is just my opinion. Act of Faith Emperor Touch. Weapon damage against commanders reduced by 25. For all squads affected by Emperor's Touch. But hold on. Weapon damage against commanders reduced by... Oh yeah, Emperor's Touch. Oh my god, this ability is so overtuned. This mod effort absolutely should get nerfed. Weapon damage against commanders reduced by 25 for all squads affected by Emperor's Touch. Weapon accuracy while moving reduced by 40%, from 50 to 40%. This is justified nerf. Obviously, Emperor's Touch should be really, really powerful. It's just way too overtuned, and especially the accuracy while moving being lowered is very justified. Also, commanders gets absolutely obliterated, so this is very, very justified. Act of Faith, Divine Retribution. Duration increased from 15 to 20. Faith cost decreased from... Okay, that's pretty good buff. Divine Retribution is underperforming, so I think this is really justified. I like it. Listening Post. The following changes apply to both Inferno Cannon and upgraded Inferno Cannon. Armor piercing against commanders is increased by, okay, from 30 to 40. To be fair, this one is a little bit underwhelming, so I agree with that. Armor piercing against infantry medium increased from 45 to 50. I'm not sure about this one. Like, IG is actually getting kind of real nerves. Also, this commanders... Oh, wait, the command squad... Ooh. Oh, I don't know about this one. This is huge IG nerfs, actually. This is massive IG nerfs together with the Foster Grenade also getting in here. Yeah, IG is getting some nerfs in this matchup for sure. Holy Reliquary. I like the direction. I just don't know if this is too much. I don't know about this infantry medium. I really don't get it, to be honest. The commander, I get that. I do get that. So it's just unfortunate for the command squad, but I understand it. There are like one-man commanders in many instances where it doesn't really deal good damage to commanders, so this is completely fine. Okay, Holy Reliquary. Cost reduced from 2550 to 150. This is aligned with Sacred Artifact and Sacrificial Circle, so I think this is fair. Heart of Worship research requirement changed from Shrine of the Living Saint to Ecclesiastical Citadel. Heart of Worship. Oh, my bad. I just want to make sure I remember the provides global bonus for faith resource production rate. Second, okay, yeah, that's true. Also, morale increase. Yeah, Heart of Worship. There's no reason it should be tier 4, so that's completely fine. I respect this. It's not an OP upgrade whatsoever, so this is completely fine. Heart of Worship. Also, this will buff Sisters very well in a justified way in tier 3, so this is good. Heart of Worship cost is reduced by a lot, actually. This might be a little too much, but I respect it. This is huge buff, actually. I think this is okay. Heart of Worship is not OP whatsoever, but it's very, very strong in later stages of the game if you've got a huge infantry mass. So, yeah. I think this is okay. Heart of Worship is a little bit underperforming, so I think this is completely fine. Pentinent engine, heavy flamers damage increased by 20%. Heavy flamers morale damage is decreased by 20% though. What the fuck? Like 20%? Pentinent engine was actually very real in damage with flamers. I understand the buff, but 20%? What the fuck? That sounds like a huge buff, actually. That means their tier 4 is actually very real now. However, I'm keep it a buck. Their tier 4 is like actually kind of questionable. So this is okay-ish, I guess. But this is actually a massive buff in my opinion. Maybe too big, not sure. Living Saint, movement speed is no longer negatively affected by cover. I understand that because she's a flying unit, but so why should also, however, she still gets the cover bonus though. Yeah, I guess they can't nerf that part, so yeah. I think this is okay. Like, I don't really give a fuck about this. This is just like a little bit of a funny buff. Percutus, Minefield. This one needs to be absolutely motherfucking nerfed ASAP. Damage from burn effect applied by explosion decreased from the burn effect applied by explosion decreased from 5 to 4. So it's gonna trigger 4 times instead of 5. Okay, great. Morale damage from burn effect applied by explosion decreased from 3 to 2 morale per second. The damage is still really, really powerful, and the cost increase is kind of doo-doo. It's not enough in my opinion. However, like, this is okay. Like, this is okay. Wait, holy shit, I'm tripping. It's not the trigger. Okay. My bad. The health damage is decreased from 5 to 4. Okay. Relic is cooking. Because it was the damage where I'm like, this shit is BS. So I'm very, very happy. They decreased it by 20. And with the morale, it was 33%. Kudos, Relic. You guys were cooking in this one. I think there's some... Oh, I don't know about this one, but I think you cooked with Sisters. Absolutely. I think this is good. Some people will say, what about their anti-vehicle and anti-building damage? Crack grenades are not the most OP shit you've ever seen in your life. Melter bombs still deal more damage. Hold on, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Melter bombs are still good. Yeah, I mean, their tier 2 power spike is still gonna be strong. So Sisters, I think Sisters are gonna be pretty strong. They might get up here, like, closer to the top now. So yeah, there may be a little bit too many buffs. But it's especially the late game in tier 3-ish that got buffed, and then their tier 4 as well. And their tier 2 got adjusted. So we'll see. We'll see. Space Marines. Okay, Space Marines are in a much stronger position now than they were historically, and are even starting to overperform in some matchups and scenarios. Okay. The Space Marine squad is losing the rebate, okay, to the build cost of the squad to reduce the massing of squad early game. Additionally, there is a minor reduction in health that Assault Marines get from the second health. Snipers are getting a cost decrease to unused flamer weapons and a reduction to sniper. A sniper getting a cost decrease to the unused flamer weapon? What? I think they meant to say scout. This must be a mistake. And a reduction to sniper damage against the most heavily armored infantry units in the game. Are they meaning heavy infantry high? Because if that's the case, then I get it. Apothecaries are getting more health to help them survive in combat, to help keep their squads alive. And the Librarian is getting a higher cooldown on Smite. Holy shit, they're going in on nerfing Space Marines, actually. Okay. They meant scouts. They meant scouts, not snipers. Getting a cost decrease would be fucking criminal, so I'm happy they didn't do that. Okay, Space Marines cost increased by 190 to 200. Okay, I get why they're doing this, and in fact, I think this is a healthy, good change. It just nerfs even more the generator opening for Space Marines. I'm not a huge fan of this. I would have decreased some other cost for Space Marines early game, because I feel like their early game is a little bit vulnerable because of their very expensive early game budget. However, I respect the change because I've seen some Space Marine massing that's really crazy, so I think this is okay. Scout Flamer cost decrease from 30 to 2010. Look, Flamers are not anytime soon gonna be viable for Scouts because it's so garbito of a weapon. It is so fucking bad. I might as well get burners from fucking Slugger Boys. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is not gonna be anything special. Just keeping it a buck. I guess the change is nice, but it's just like, come on, bro. This is not gonna do anything. Sniper damage against infantry high. Okay. Reduced by 30%. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a heads up here. So the reason why they're doing this is Scout Marines. Where's the snipers? Okay, so you can see, yeah, here. Infantry heavy high, medium, is 1600.6 DPS, right? Infantry heavy high is somehow like 9 per second or something-ish more powerful against, like, for snipers. I mean, I don't really give a fuck about this. There's very few instances where this is going to be impactful. However, like, I get the idea. Like, why is heavy high just way higher than 16.6? You know, I understand that. So I'm completely fine with this change, but I don't think it's going to make much of an impact. Oh my god, I just saw some of those changes. Sniper damage against infantry high reduced by 30%. I think this is only going to change anything in like the mirror one. Not even that one. Maybe actually. And oh, it's actually a decent buff for Celestians. Okay. You never go snipers against SOB in this current meta, in my opinion. And Chaos actually, the Obliterators are, yeah, the Obliterators, how about the Possess Squad, though? I think this will help Chaos, actually. Possess Squad, I don't think that's heavy high, right? Infantry heavy high. Okay, it actually is. So this is gonna help Chaos pretty significantly. It's not crazy. I don't think it's injustable, or I think it's okay. Because like there's no reason it should be this good against, like, snipers are just supposed to be good against like Dark Reapers, against very, very heavy infantry masses, and it should just be good against shooter boys and stuff. So I'm not, you know, I don't mind this. Apothecary increased from 600 to 800. Okay, Apothecary might actually do some shit now. Because Apothecary, if I remember correctly, is actually infantry heavy high, right? Yes, he is. And the Sergeant of Space Marines is yeah, with Bionics, he's gonna end up on some stuff like 900 or something. So this change is actually pretty good. Apothecary is not gonna see any play anytime soon, but he's not going to be completely what the fuck, like, why are you going Apothecary anymore? Not at all. This is a 300 HP increase overall. Very justified buff. I fuck with this. Librarian Smite ability. 75 to 9. Wow, SM is getting some nerfs, actually. However, this is justified. I don't know why Librarian just gets to rotate his abilities 24/7, especially when you consider the Veteran Superior actually lowers the cooldown of the abilities for commanders, and especially Librarian is gonna get some insane ability cooldown cost, or cooldown. So this is fine. And then Assault Marines bonus health from 30 to 25. Why are Space Marines getting this many nerfs? 30% to 25. Look, I get it, right? Assault Marines are super tanky right now, but them getting that buff actually meant that, like, Assault Marines are kind of keeping Space Marines alive in many matchups. It actually makes it so tier 2 power spike for Space Marines is actually legit. Together with some of the buffs-ish they got in tier 2. It's still, like, garbage, but you can actually do it, for example, against Tau. So, yeah, I understand it. I just don't know if it's the right direction, right? And also, I don't see any compensation here. Space Marines are just, like, obviously, I might be biased, right? But Space Marines are actually not having many good matchups. They don't have, per se, awful matchups. But, yeah. I don't know about this one. I think it's fair. It's just the overall picture is a little worrisome. Tempest land speed attack. I don't get this, though. Well, I get it, but I just disagree. I don't know why 1500 and like, why? Like, is it because Tempest is just spammable? I mean, Tempest is absolutely crucial because rocket launchers are actually kind of garbage. They're very, very expensive. I would have loved, like, if they went down this direction, at least make rocket launchers cheaper, like 40 to 10, or maybe at least like 5 requisition, because SM's tier 2 anti-vehicle is actually kind of questionable because Tempest is easily countered, and so is the rocket launchers. Now, you can say this applies to other races, but not to the same degree as SM. SM's tier 2.5 is actually low-key insane, but it got nerfed already, especially through the Chaplain. Even though he's more accessible, it doesn't change the fact that he's actually nerfed in terms of his numbers significantly. Yeah, I don't like them lowering this. At least compensate with the rocket launchers a tiny bit in cost. Overall, I understand every single change. I just don't agree with the execution. Yeah, that's my opinion. I'm gonna look at all these changes to figure out what I think about this. Granted, there's not a single change in here where I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? So that's a good sign. I just might just end up disagreeing. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Tau. Okay. Tau are fairly stable and will not be receiving many changes in this update. Vespids are receiving a minor reduction in damage against buildings like listing posts and generators. Okay. Fire Warriors are now slightly less of a damage buff from advanced pulse rifle research. Yes! And broadside battlesuit now take a bit less time to entrench and uproot. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll fuck with this. Vespid Stingwind Strain. Damage to building low decreased by 10%. So Stingwing is their actual melee weapon. I think this is very good. If I remember correctly, let's see, where's the Vespid? Vespid Stingwind Strain. Wait, isn't it just whatever? Vespid Claw? Okay, whatever. If I remember correctly, it's actually the ability Destabilization. Melee damage received, health melee damage received, and range damage received. I think, yeah, the buildings, it's just the buildings. So it actually ties into the destabilization as well. So the increase is also less effective now, which is really, really good. I think this is good because Vespids are just kind of overpowered in certain cases. This is not a huge nerf though, so I'm completely fine with this. Entrench and uproot reduction 65, 55 to 5 seconds and 45. Okay, so actually, this is good because broadside battlesuit entrench is just way too slow. However, it's not to be messed around with when it's actually entrenched. But yeah, broadside battlesuit is questionable in terms of its mobility. I think they could have gone a little bit lower. But need to be careful that this unit is just suddenly pretty fast. So I think this is okay. Advanced Pulse Rifle, Fire Warrior, and Yasui damage bonus reduced from 30% to 25%. I think this is okay. This is gonna especially help against IG, but this just means that Necrolord against I don't get it. Like, Tau is still gonna suffer a lot against Necrons. I don't give a fuck what the fuck. And especially now, oh my god. Wait, Vespids are also getting low. Nah, bro. Necrons are gonna be fucking bossing against Tau. I almost guarantee you. However, just trying to get the Necron matchup out of my head, this is good. Okay. Most of these changes are good. I'm gonna do a little bit of an analysis in the end. I'm gonna get like some light in this lamp. I need to fix it, so I'm gonna take a break. Also, let's look at the bug fixes. Desyncs, general desyncs fixed some cases where desyncs could occur during gameplay, added additional logging to help diagnose further issues. Smart app control added signing support to all DLL files blocked when smart. I don't know what the fuck this is about. Gameplay economy fixed resource generating units. Example Canonist to continue generating resources while in a hold. Example right. Okay, I did not know this was okay. Pathfinding added a fallback to pathfinding for cases where a single unit could fail to find a path, finding higher ground. Ooh. Yeah, bro. This is amazing, especially Fallen City. Fuck that map. Oh my god, pathfinding is absolutely garbage on this one. If this is not helping in most cases, and there's still a lot of pathfinding issues, I might actually do a video to Relic to actually talk about pathfinding because this shit is just BS. Buildings added additional checks to reduce the number of cases where a large unit could be created on the side of a building where it could get stuck. Okay, nice. I see this rarely, but it does happen. Unit range fixed several cases where units had weapon range longer than combat scanning range, which would lead to units not attacking enemies that appear in to be clearly in range. Okay, there's some few issues with this. I think Scourges is actually a thing. So yeah, this is good. Chaos fixed an exploit with the Bloodthirster where it regenerated health too quickly when spam clicking attack on. Wow, that's a disgusting exploit. Thank God they fixed it. Dark Eldar units that die to the Homunculus Stinger ability no longer remain standing. Okay, nice. Winter Assault, I don't give a fuck about any of this. Soulstorm fixed Sisters of Battle Confessor, Honor God, whatever. Fixed the campaign, I don't give a fuck about that. Art. Dark Eldar fixed cases where Poison Blade FX would stack and become overly bright. Okay. Someone just wrote to me, RIP SM. Rain Floodlands adjusted a strategic point that was whatever. UI. Invitations fixed several cases where invitation would always fail, require a second one to be sent. Okay, automatch fixed a case where blah blah blah. Automatch fixed several cases where automatch was not selectable after canceling or joining creating a game. Nice! This is a good change. Fixed cases where the game could crash after canceling automatch. Yeah. All of this is good. Fixed cases where the minimize HUD icon would be lower quality when moused over. Nice. HUD changed how small UI icons mip maps, minimaps, or general whatever. Fix several cases where squad control icons showing the incorrect. Nice. Added drop shadows to reinforcement counts to improve clarity. Polish. Fixed an incorrectly translated string in the main menu. Thoughts of the day area. Nice. Language. I've said this many times. Language should always be good. This is important for any game. Especially a game where English is not a normal language in the country. For example, China, South Korea, Russia to some extent, you know, I could keep on going. Mods, I don't give a fuck about that. So, I'm gonna do a full breakdown for myself, and I'm gonna do a tier list after this. So, stay tuned, guys. Okay, guys, so I looked into all of the changes, and I must admit, I am kinda low-key lost. Because this is going to be the most, like, margin of error kind of judgment. Because at this point, there's so many things that has happened. And I agree with Relic when they say, going forward, after any required hotfixes and balance adjustments, the cadence of updates is likely going to slow and scale down as we allow multiplayer meta to settle, generate more definitive data. Additionally, this will allow our team to spend more time on larger initiatives. The team will still be here watching for ways to support the community. So I like that they're saying that they need more data, and I do too, but let's just break this down. IG absolutely got some huge nerf. I think all of it is justified, even though the Marauder, but like, come on, bro. Curse of Machine Spirit, good. Guardsmen, plasma guns, maybe a little bit too much. Good change here. Chimera, I don't get it. Except for the damage where infantry is getting into the Chimera, which is usually just the first infantry, or the first Chimera. So I don't get this. Maybe except for that, but still, I actually disagree with this. And also, Baneblade, I get it. So, the Chimera and Guardsmen, together with the Curse of Machine Spirit nerfs, are very real. I'm gonna put them down to B tier for sure. We'll see. IG is still gonna be pretty good, I think, but this was very real nerfs. And just spoiler alert, they're not gonna be number one in B tier. Let me just put it that way. Tau, good nerfs to them. I think the Eldar matchup in the long run, because Eldar still needs to adjust, is going to be more viable for Eldar, so that's a problem for Tau. Necrons is still going to be a problem. However, Necrons matchup got better for Tau overall, I think, but it's not enough. Dark Eldar buffs, specifically against Tau, is going to be worse for Tau. Yeah, the IG matchup is still going to be good for Tau, though. And, yeah, I think in general, Tau got some justified nerfs, very justified nerfs. I'm going to put them in the low end of A tier, I think. I'm not sure, though. I'm really not sure. This is the most, like, I am not sure about anything. Yeah, Chaos, I'm going to let them stay here. I don't think they got absolutely bonkers. Because they got some justified buffs. So let's just break it down. Chaos Lord. This is just going to help against Eldar, but especially against Orks, which is very justified. Both of these matchups still kind of bad. It's also going to, funnily enough, actually help against Dark Eldar, but it's not in too bad of a spot, especially like it's just the Chaos Lord, but 20% is no joke, actually. Defiler, this is very justified. Corn Berserker nerf is healthy. I don't know what the fuck this cultist change was with grenade launchers. Plasma gun, I think it's based. I think Chaos is going to stay because overall they didn't really get the nerfs they deserved. I still think cultist is a little bit overtuned. and should get... I don't know why they buffed this snake. I really don't fucking get it. But then again, I respect Relic, and some people might disagree with me. I just still don't get it. Dark Eldar got some pretty good changes. Reaver Jet Bike, infantry low, increased by 10%. This is huge. Raider got nerfed though, which is absolutely justified. Witches got a little bit lowered in cost. Days of Destruction got better. However, Corrosion got heavily nerfed. I think Dark Eldar is... I'm gonna let them stick here, actually. If you look at this patch, there's not really insane risky changes. There's nothing that makes you go, wow, that's fucking insane. This race is just gonna be the most OP or the most useless race ever. Necrons, let's talk about them. I think Necrons got some changes that was justified. They're gonna get nerfed against Tau a lot. Or a little bit. I'm not sure. We'll see. Maybe these numbers are more crazy than I recognize, but I don't think so. I think Necrons are gonna be Gucci. And I think I'll actually... I'm gonna stick them here as well, honestly. Yeah, at least so far. Sisters, I think they overall got buffed. It's not crazy. They got some tier 4 and a bit of tier 3 buffs. And I mean, the faith income is still kind of high, in my opinion. Fossil Grenade, they got some buffs against IG, which makes it even more so that IG is down here. I'm going to move Sisters here. IG, in my opinion, is going to be around here. Orks got real buffs, actually. I looked at this even more. These changes are kind of fucking strong. Heavy Boy Armor, health increase. More Daka is actually an underrated change for sure. You see more Daka and Blastia research actually being researched pretty fast for Orks, and they actually deal low-key insane damage. I think these changes are justified. I just want to make sure that people understand this might actually be bigger buffs than people recognize. Mega Armor Knobs are still going to be questionable, but it actually is now not a complete meme unit. Now it's actually pretty good, I think, or decent at least. But this is actually the one that I'm kind of worried about. I calculated this. This increases their HP by 20. So every single Stormboy unit actually gets 20 HP. That is a lot. And they're super cheap. I've said this a million times again about Heavy Boy Armor. I don't fucking get why, or not Heavy Boy Armor, Stormboys, why they're so cheap. I think the cheapness of Stormboys should have been focused instead of the health. However, I respect the changes. I understand the change. I just have a feeling it's a little bit too much because they didn't adjust like Slugger Boys, for example, and stuff. So I'm not sure about this one. However, it might be good enough. We'll see. I'm a little worried about Orks being a little bit too strong, especially now that Master Yoba and Neki's actually bussing and they're actually doing real shit. Wartrack nerf is not enough. I think not only is the slow kind of questionable, I even think the duration should be lowered as well. I think it's insanely high, the duration. I think the knockback and stuff could maybe also be lowered a little bit, but don't want to nerf the Wartrack a little bit. A Bomb Chucker should probably increase in cost. But hey, it is what it is. I feel like this might be a little too much for Orks, but I could also be tripping. But I think definitely Orks is going to be here, maybe above Necrons actually. I don't know. This is kind of interchangeable. These three here, fuck it. We'll even take Dark Eldar in here. These four are interchangeable for me. So SM is probably the one that I disagree with the most. Although I got all the changes, I think if we just break it down, the Chaos matchup is gonna get worse, not by ridiculous amount, but it's gonna get worse. The Tau matchup is gonna get worse, not by a ridiculous margin, because Tau did definitely get some nerfs. But I think overall it's gonna be worse because of the level 2 bionics nerfed. And also, like, this rebate is actually huge in that matchup because Space Marines have a tendency to mass units to actually deal with Tau. I think the Dark Eldar matchup is gonna get worse, but not by a huge margin at all, because Corrosion got changed. Space Marines are actually okay-ish against Dark Eldar because there's a decent amount of options. But so it's okay-ish. Sisters are gonna get a tad worse, for sure, for SM, but only a tad. Necrons might actually get a little bit better for Space Marines overall. I'm not sure, actually. Like, I don't think the Wraiths are gonna be... No, actually, it's gonna get worse because of the Librarian changes, so yeah. Orks is obviously gonna get worse. IG is gonna get radically better, though. And Eldar doesn't really impact SM. So I'm gonna stick SM here. But don't get it twisted, though. There's a reason why all of these races are in here. If I had to do something, I would probably do it like this. But just don't get it twisted, because this is like more like B tier minus, and this is kind of B tier. And so I would just say that's pretty important, and then A tier for these two races here. I don't think there's an S tier. I don't think so, at least. I think this is more correct. And yes, Eldar is actually the worst race. I'm not fucking around. I actually mean that, like, as hilarious as it sounds, even though Space Marines is like kind of bad against Eldar, it's not horrific. IG can still deal with Eldar, sort of. Orks is definitely favored now against Eldar. Some nerfs to Necrons will help Eldar significantly. Sisters got overall buffs against Eldar. Dark Eldar definitely got buffs against Eldar because of the Reaver jetbikes being improved like that. However, they didn't buff the Hellions, but this matchup is still kind of bad for Eldar, but not in a horrific way. Tau, maybe that's going to help Eldar, but I don't know about it. And Chaos is going to get worse for them. So it's just like, Eldar's actually down here. I'm not fucking around, guys. I mean this dead serious. But then again, all of these races just in general kind of are very close to me. There might be some insane stuff that I've been missing. So like the gap between Eldar and Tau is not huge. In fact, I'll say A minus. A minus. And this is going to be B minus as well. So if someone, because I've noticed this in some Discords, if someone just copies this, some guy without context is just going to say, what the fuck, like, Eldar this low, motherfucker. Like, the gap between these races are not insane. Okay? And obviously, there's nuances to all of this. This is just my opinion and stuff. Okay? SM is still going to be decent in the meta, and so is IG. It's just they are a little bit underwhelming compared to the other races. This is my opinion, guys. I could be 100% wrong, and we might as well flip this tier list. I don't think so, but I might be underestimating the changes to Space Marines, and they're actually not as bad as I think. You know, I could keep on going, but without further ado, guys, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. Thank you, Relic, for these patches. Love you. Bye. Peace.